Alright, what's going on, guys? It's XLT here, bringing you back another video on my channel. And now today we're going to be starting a brand new series. I already know that we already have the Versus series, and I haven't uploaded one of those in a while. I plan on getting back on it soon, maybe after the Combine or here in a couple weeks. And then we have other videos on the channel that are like news updates, opinion videos, stuff like that, mock drafts and all that good stuff. But today I want to start a new series, and it's going to be like a ranking series. So we're going to go by position. We're going to go position by position for the entire world of college football, quarterbacks, running backs, all that good stuff. And I'm going to give you my top 5 prospects from each position, and I'm going to give you a sleeper or an under-the-radar guy that I think can be really good going into the draft. So with quarterbacks, you've got guys like Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, running backs, Saquon Barkley, Akram Wadley, all that stuff. We're just going to go position by position, and the first episode is going to be the quarterbacks. I'm probably going to be putting these out maybe once or twice a week until the draft. I'm going to try and get as many skill positions and high-profile positions that I can, because, I mean, linemen are important, but they're not really a view getter, or it's a lot of thing that not a lot of people are interested in learning about the linemen, the top 5 linemen in the draft, but a lot of people do like quarterbacks, running backs, D-backs, D-linemen, linebackers, all that good stuff. So like I said, we're going to start with the quarterbacks today. Let me know what position you guys want to see me do next. If you have any players you want me to talk about, anything like that, leave comments down in the comment section below. I love reading them, and I will respond to them if you give me a valid reason to respond. If it's just hate, I'm probably not going to respond to it. But if you actually have a good point, I'll respond to you, and we can talk about whatever you bring up in the comments. So yeah, let's get right into it. Alright, like I said in the intro, this is going to be the quarterback episode, and we're not going to start off with the number 1 prospect or who I think the number 1 prospect is. We're going to start off with the under-the-radar, the low flyer, the sleeper of the entire draft, and I think that guy can be Mike White from the University of Western Kentucky, or Western Kentucky University. It's where Forrest Lamp and Taywan Taylor both played last year, who were 2 pretty high-profile names for their positions in the draft last year. I do really like what he has. He's got very good arm talent. He's sneakily athletic. He can get out and run if he needs to, and he's not like a Josh Rosen when he needs to run. He's not slow or lethargic. Like, he can get out and he can really move if he needs to. He can pick up 6, 7, 8 yards on a play if he needs to. And he's a big frame guy. I think he's about 6'3", 6'4". His throwing motion is very good. The one thing I do have a little bit of concern about him is his pocket presence. He does let guys get a little bit too close to him in the pocket, disrupt his arm movement. He seems to get a little crowded. He doesn't escape that much, but when he does, he can make plays down the field. He's not that good outside of the pocket, making throws on the run or anything like that. He's very good in the pocket. He reminds me, I don't really like making pro comparisons, but he does remind me a little bit of Blake Bortles just watching him. He's a big body dude, big arm, pretty accurate, can get out and run if he needs to. So that would be a guy I would relate him to, a smaller school guy just like Blake Bortles. But I do think a good fit for Mike White would be the 3rd or the 4th round, going to, I really can't put him at a projection right now, but I think he's more of a 3rd or a 4th round guy. He could fall later, honestly, because guys like Kyle Lauletta have emerged, and I think that they've kind of taken over his spot where he stood at the end of the year. But I do think that he's more of a mid-round guy. He could be a 2nd or 3rd day guy that I think if a team gets him, if a team that needs a quarterback can get him, he can come in and be very effective right away. All right, moving on from the sleeper kind of under-the-radar players, we're going to be jumping into the actual rankings, and I'm going to be starting at number 5. We're going to work our way down and go all the way up to the top so that, you know, the suspense kind of builds and you get thinking in your head, oh, who's it going to put here? Who's it going to put here? But we're going to be starting at number 5, and that is going to be Lamar Jackson from Louisville. Some people may think this is too high. Some people may think this is a little bit too low. I think this is perfectly fine. He's a 2nd to 3rd round talent, in my opinion, just because he doesn't have all of the skills that you want a typical quarterback to have. That sounds kind of weird because he is extremely mobile. He's extremely game-changing. He could, you know, turn a game on its head in the course of one play just by busting off a huge run. But his passing mechanics do concern me a little bit. His arm motion, he doesn't use his lower body at all. It's pretty much all in his shoulder and all in his arm. He flicks his wrist a little bit, but not enough. He can make pretty much all the throws you need him to. He's just inconsistent on the deep ball, and he is not very good at reading the field. The reads that they had him go through at Louisville were a lot of one reads, or if they were double reads, they were more of a flood concept where you could see all the reads like 1, 2, 3 behind each other, and he would just miss throws continuously, miss reads continuously at an inconsistent level, and that's why he's my number 5 quarterback, because he's not as consistent and he's not as polished as you would like a pro quarterback to be. Although he does have a lot of athleticism and he does have the ability to break off huge runs and change games in the snap of a finger, I think that his throwing mechanics and ability need to increase rapidly before he gets to the draft or while he's in the NFL if you want him to be a franchise quarterback. But besides that, I do think he's a very good player. He's obviously a Heisman Trophy winner. I think he's one of 3 players to have 200 career touchdowns or multiple seasons with 50 touchdowns, and that's a very good stat to have because that shows that he's a playmaker and that he can change the game through the air and on the ground. And I do think that if a team gets him in the 2nd or 3rd round, depending on what their need is, he could be a backup quarterback. He could groom him into a starting role, but maybe a team like Buffalo, who's had a little bit of quarterback controversy, maybe a team like Jacksonville picks him up in the 2nd or 3rd round, and they could make him a starting quarterback. All right, moving on from the number 5 spot to number 4, we have another guy who's got a lot of mixed opinions and a lot of mixed feelings on his rankings, and a lot of people have a lot of different opinions, a lot of conflicting opinions. Some people think he could be a huge franchise quarterback, should be at the top of the draft. A lot of people think he should be somewhere in the middle. Some people think he's not even 1st round talent, but in a huge quarterback draft, you should take him in the 1st round. And that guy's going to be Josh Allen from Wyoming. A lot of people have a lot of different opinions about this guy. They think that he's too inconsistent to be a 1st rounder. They don't think that he has a talent, that he played against enough good competition, that his numbers aren't good, so that shows that he's not consistent and that he can't withstand an NFL and an NFL system. But I think this guy is very, very good. He has great arm talent. It reminds me a lot of Cam Newton in the way that he throws, the way that he kind of struggles with inaccuracies and stuff like that. It's not as much that he just straight misses throws. His receivers do drop a lot of balls, and he does play at Wyoming, so it's not like he has the talent around him like a guy that Baker Mayfield did at Oklahoma, where he's got Mark Andrews, CeeDee Lamb, Marquise Brown, Rodney Anderson, I think is his name. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. He didn't have a lot of talent around him, and he kind of had to turn the team. He kind of had to put him on his back and say, look, I'll make the throws. You guys just have to catch him. They didn't always catch him all the time, and he also didn't get a lot of time to throw, typically from his offensive line, but those aren't excuses that you can make. You've got to still be able to perform and put out good numbers. So the one thing with me is his inconsistencies. He only had a 56% completion percentage this year, which is a big, eye-opener, but I do think that this guy has the mechanics that you want, at least a good base mechanics that you can tweak a little bit if you need to. His arm is great. He's got a great arm talent. He can stretch the ball down the field. He can fit the ball wherever you pretty much need him to. It's just he's got to develop a little bit more consistency with that. He did run a very pro-style offense at Wyoming, which is very good because that means the transition from the college football from Wyoming won't be as tough because he'll understand concepts and formations a little bit better rather than somebody who came from a spread offense, air raid, all that good stuff. So Josh Allen at number 5, I think that's pretty fair. A lot of people would put Mason Rudolph at this spot. A lot of people think that this guy should be higher, maybe at the 1 or the 2 spot, but I think 4 is a very good landing spot for Josh Allen. All right, moving on from the number 4 spot into the number 3 spot. We're almost to the top 2 players of my rankings, but at number 3, we're going to have Baker Mayfield from Oklahoma, another very controversial player that we have right here, a guy who won the Heisman Trophy, but also had some on-the-field issues, and not really issues, but just one instance against Kansas where he had some choice words, and he had some choice actions that maybe he should not have said, maybe he thought it was in his best mind, but I really think that people are overhyping that character in that game right there. I think he was just really, really competitive. I don't think that they understand that GMs and people around the college, they were like disgusted with it. They're like, oh my gosh, what a absolute travesty to the college football world. I don't think that they understand. He went out there to shake hands. He was being a good sport. He was saying, look, let's play this game. Let's give it your best shot. I want to be sports, like I want to show sportsmanship and gentlemanship, and I want to shake your hand. And they just didn't shake his hand. So what do you want to do? Like, that's just showing them that's just showing Baker Mayfield that you don't care about him, you don't care who he is. So he's going to go out there and he's going to prove to you, and he's going to prove you wrong that, you didn't respect me. Well, now I'm just going to disrespect you. Maybe that wasn't the best choice, but he did have some things earlier in the season where against West Virginia, or not against West Virginia, who was it? Against Baylor, when he said, "Daddy's gonna spank you." I thought that was funny, but he's just a very fiery, very competitive guy, and I don't think that really is a big concern to me. At least if I was an NFL GM, I'd say, look, this guy wants to go out and he wants to give 110% every time that he touches the football, every time he steps in between those white lines. He's ready to go and he's ready to give me 110%. I think he's gonna learn from his character mistakes. I don't want to call them mistakes because that's just who he is. He's a fiery guy, he's a competitor, but learning from those instances and becoming a better person, I think he did that throughout the season, and he definitely showed that he could be a great football player, as he did win the Heisman. I think he had the highest completion percentage in college football this year, but that's kind of due to his offense a little bit, but it's also due to his skill. He did make a lot of throws that a lot of guys in this draft don't make consistently, but he made them a lot. He did have a lot of weapons around him, so that may or may not have inflated his stats a little bit. Either they made him look good or he made them look good. It's got to be one or the other, but I want to think it's the second. I want to think he made them look good. Personally, because I'm a huge Baker Mayfield fan, I really do like him a lot. A lot of concerns, or not a lot of concerns, he has a few concerns. His arm strength isn't really the best. He got a lot of pro comparisons like Drew Brees did when he was coming out of Purdue. A lot of people said he was too short, and then his arm strength wasn't there, and that he played in a more spread, like throw it all over the place offense. And Baker Mayfield has a lot of those marks on his name as well. He's not very tall. He's not very physical, like stature-wise. He's not 6'4", 6'5", like some of these other guys are. He doesn't have the best arm power, but he does get the ball downfield, and he does run a very wide open, throw it around the yard offense in a conference that doesn't really play a lot of defense. So those are just some knocks that he has on his game, but I don't think that's going to be a huge concern because Drew Brees has turned out to be one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen play the game. I don't know if Baker Mayfield will get that high, but I do think he has a lot of potential. Right now in my mock draft, I have him going number 5 to the Broncos, which I think would be a good situation for him. I think that they are going to try and target Kirk Cousins though, so in the next few weeks after the combine's over, I will have another mock draft out, and he probably won't be there depending on what the Broncos do with Kirk Cousins, and if they go after him and target him or anything like that. But yeah, Baker Mayfield, my number 3 quarterback in the draft. Could be higher, honestly. A lot of people do think he's the best quarterback. I know Pro Football Focus has him graded as the number 1, and so that's where he stands with them, but in my list I have him at the number 3 spot, which I think is pretty good for Baker Mayfield. Alright, moving on from the number 3 spot, we're inching our way to the top of the list. At the number 2 spot for my quarterback rankings in the 2018 NFL Draft, I have Sam Darnold from USC. A lot of guys think that he is the number 1 quarterback in this draft because of the ability that he is going to have to evolve and to develop and to become one of the better quarterbacks, because he's got a lot more room than some of these other guys do, because he's not super great at any aspect, but he's pretty good in a lot of places, and people just think that if the team that he goes to can hone in on his skills and refine them more and more, that he can develop into being one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I'm not super high on this guy, but I do think that he is better than Baker Mayfield, just in terms of arm talent and arm power. He's definitely not as accurate. He's kind of in the Josh Allen realm, but he's more accurate than Josh Allen. He's not up at the Baker Mayfield accuracy in terms of statistics, but I do think that he has good ball placement. He's got great arm power, and he can really stretch the field. He's one of the few quarterbacks in this draft that has a great deep ball already, but he does have a very good arm. He just inconsistency was his big thing, especially at USC. He had a lot of players, a lot of weapons leave him last year, and Juju Smith-Schuster and Adoree Jackson. Even though Adoree Jackson played defense, they did use him on the offensive side of the ball, and the offensive line at USC was a huge problem for them. They couldn't get any type of consistent play from any of the positions along the entire offensive line. They were very consistent in the run game. They were also very consistent in protection. We saw that against Texas early in the year when that defensive line and that front seven just got after Ronald Jones, and they got after Sam Darnold. He threw 2 picks in that game, I think, both to Deshaun Elliott, who also is a very good prospect that I may or may not be talking about in a future video. But that's neither here nor there. We're talking about quarterbacks right now. Sam Darnold, I do think that he is a very good quarterback. I think that his arm talent and his ability to throw down the field and really stretch the ball is a very big plus for him in terms of where people are going to rank him, because being able to stretch the field in today's NFL is a very big thing. We've seen the evolution of speed wide receivers, guys like Tyreek Hill, Mike Wallace over the last 4 or 5 years, guys that just can get down the field. If you can huck one up to them, chuck one up to them, and then they can come down with it and keep running, or if they come down with it in the end zone, that's very good. So having the ability to stretch the ball down the field is a very, very big plus when you're looking at all around scouting quarterbacks and stuff like that, because not a lot of those guys have that ability. There's a lot of quarterbacks in this draft. He's one of the few that can stretch the ball down the field like that. Just my thing with him was inconsistency. Like I said earlier, he misses a lot of times on middle out routes, like 10 to 15 yard outs or corners, stuff like that. He's just a little bit inconsistent at that, but that'll take time. That'll come with practice and effort and stuff like that, and we'll get to see how accurate he is just in a combine setting. Once we get to the combine in his pro day, we'll get to see how accurate he is, just purely him and the ball, him and the receiver, just all that stuff. But that's not really going to translate to the field. He's just going to have to get more consistent with medium routes towards the sidelines. He's great over the middle. I thought over the middle, a lot of these quarterbacks performed very well, and he did too. He likes deep post routes is a thing that I saw that he is very, very good at, and that's a route that takes a lot of timing, a lot of practice, and a lot of finesse and a lot of arm power. So combining all of those into one throw and being as good as he was at it, I think is a very good thing. But Sam Darnold, right now, I think he's my #1 quarterback in terms of where they are drafted, but that's just because of the whole situation in Cleveland and how they don't like Josh Rosen. But yeah, Sam Darnold at #2 I think is a very good spot, and let's head into the #1 quarterback in my rankings right now. All right, here we are at the #1 spot, finishing up the video for the top 5 quarterbacks in the 2018 NFL Draft, in my opinion, of course. If Mel Kiper had it his way, Josh Allen would be at the top of this list, and everybody else, it didn't matter. So I can't believe how head over heels he is for that guy. But we're not talking about Josh Allen. We're talking about the #1 quarterback. I've mentioned him throughout the entire video, giving him kind of little hints and stuff like that throughout the entire video, and that's going to be Josh Rosen from UCLA, a guy that a lot of people have penciled in to be their #1 quarterback. A lot of people have him out of the top 5, out of the top 10 even, which is absolutely crazy to me. I don't get how a guy like this falls that far in the draft, but that's nevertheless, I think that he's a very good quarterback. I think that his arm talent, just his accuracy, the way he throws the ball, the way that the ball gets to the receivers, ball placement, I think all of that is top of the class. The one thing that I have with him is his deep ball accuracy. That's probably the one knock that I have on him, just not being able to get the ball downfield consistently. He never really had a stretch the field type receiver. I mean, Jordan Lasley's good, but he's not like a 4-4 guy who's going to be able to, or a 4-3-9 guy who's going to be able to run down the field and just, you can chuck it up and hope and pray to God that he's going to come down with it in stride and run for a touchdown. But he did have some good weapons at UCLA, but I think that he was the one that made them look good. He really did a good job at placing the ball where he needed the ball to be placed. He could fit the ball into tight windows very, very good, and that's a big thing. But I just didn't see a quarterback that matched his arm ability and his consistency all season. Another thing that I had that was kind of a knock on his game was that he liked to stare downfield a little too long, just kind of look for the long ball to try and get his team back in the game instead of looking for the dink and dunks, the out routes, the slants, the drags, the posts, stuff like that were just simple routes that were going to get you 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yards at a time instead of trying to go for the 40-yard bomb to get your team back in the game in one play, especially when you're super inconsistent at that. That's not the route you want to go. But I think that he's very, very good. The one thing, he also had some character issues where people said that he wasn't going to go to the draft because the Browns were going to draft him. Some of the coaches and players weren't convinced that he was in love with the game, that he wasn't studying that much, that he was, kind of absent-minded. But he turned it on towards the end of the season, and I think that he showed that he's really committed when he didn't play in the bowl game, because that shows that, I want to play football and I know I have a future in the NFL, and so I'm going to sit out, protect my body, save myself from getting any major injuries. And I think that really helped his stock a little bit in some people's eyes, but I don't really like the whole sitting out of a bowl game thing. I'm not a huge fan of that. I'd rather see people compete and play and show that they've really got heart and passion for the game. But besides that, Josh Rosen, I think he ticks all the boxes in my book. There's just two on the field things, pocket presence and throwing the ball downfield too much. Looking for the deep shot. Those are my two things that I have on him. Besides that, I don't really have any knocks on this guy. I think he's pretty much a clean slate. And he's also got the best mechanics in the entire draft, which is a very big plus. I don't have him going #1. I think I have him going #6 to the Jets in my latest mock draft that I just put out, which would be a steal for that organization. If they don't get Kirk Cousins, I think that that's the guy that they should look to in the draft if he is available at that spot, because I don't think you can pass up his talent. I think he's a top 3 talent. I mean, in this year's draft, the number 3 pick doesn't need a quarterback, but the top 2 do. I do think he's a top 3 talent, top 5 at the least. He shouldn't fall out of the top 10 or out of the top 8 for that matter. And I think that he is going to be a very successful pro quarterback if he gets his head on straight and he decides to commit to football 110%. Well, that's going to do it for the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts and opinions about my rankings down in the comment section below. If you think I left somebody off the list, if you think somebody's too high, too low, if you think different players should be moved around, all that good stuff. I do like to hear your opinions, and I may or may not respond with a little bit of rebuttal of my own. I do like to talk about and debate this kind of stuff. It's, you know, my passion. That's why I made this YouTube channel. But I do appreciate the support that you guys show on the videos. I do support all the views, all the likes, all the comments, and it's really helping my channel grow. So if you guys can keep that up, that'd be great. And yeah, this is XLT signing out.